I never thought my life would feel like a tug of war, but here I am, caught in the middle of a family mess that's been eating at me for months. My name is Isabella. I'm 32, and I've been married to William for 5 years. If you'd asked me back when we got married, I'd have said we were building something solid, a home, a future. But lately, it feels like the ground beneath me is crumbling, and the biggest crack comes from someone I never expected to be my enemy, my mother-in-law. She hates me, plain and simple, because I've done better in my career than her son, my husband. It's not just her cold stares or sharp comments. It's the way her resentment has started to poison everything else in my life, from my marriage to my peace of mind. This is my story, and I'm still figuring out how to navigate it without losing myself. Let me start with a bit about us. I'm a project manager at a tech company, overseeing a team that builds software for big clients. It's demanding, but I love it, and I've worked hard to get where I am. Promotions, bonuses, the whole deal. William, who's 34, is a high school history teacher. He's passionate about his students, always staying late to help them with projects or sneaking in extra lessons about obscure battles he loves talking about. He's kind, steady, the kind of guy who makes you feel safe. But he's not ambitious the way I am. He's happy where he is, and I've always been fine with that. Or at least, I thought I was. His mother, though, she's never been fine with it. From the moment I met her, I could tell she had this image of William as the golden boy who'd outshine everyone. She'd brag about how he could have been a lawyer or a CEO if he'd just pushed harder. When we got engaged, she'd make little comments about how I was lucky to have him, like I was some charity case he'd picked up. Back then, I brushed it off. I figured she'd warm up to me once she saw how much I loved her son. I was wrong. The trouble really started about 2 years ago when I got a big promotion. My company was expanding, and they put me in charge of a new division. It came with a corner office, a 6-figure salary, and a lot of responsibility. I was thrilled. William was too, at first. He took me out to dinner, toasted to my success, said he was proud. But when we told his mom over Sunday dinner at her house, her face froze. She didn't say much that night, just nodded and changed the subject to William's latest school fundraiser. I didn't think much of it until the comments started. It was little things at first. She'd ask William why he wasn't looking for a better job, saying things like, "You're smarter than most of the people Isabella works with, I bet." Or she'd sigh and say, "It must be hard, William, having everyone look at your wife like she's the breadwinner." I'd bite my tongue, not wanting to cause a scene, but it stung. William would just laugh it off or say, "Mom, we're doing fine." But I could see it was getting to him, even if he wouldn't admit it. Then there was the family party last year, Thanksgiving at her house. I'd just closed a huge deal at work, and one of William's cousins asked me about it. I was excited, so I shared a bit about the project. His mom overheard and cut in, saying, "Well, it's nice you have time for work, Isabella, but I always thought family was more important than chasing titles." The room went quiet. I felt my face burn, but I just smiled and said something about being grateful for my job. William didn't say anything. He just passed the mashed potatoes like nothing happened. That night, driving home, I told him how much it hurt. He said, "She didn't mean it like that, Izzy. She's just old-fashioned." I let it go, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was defending her more than he was hearing me. That's when I started noticing the bigger problem. William was pulling away. He'd come home quieter, spend more time grading papers in the basement than talking to me. When I'd ask what was wrong, he'd say, "Nothing, just tired." But I knew better. His mom's comments were sinking in, making him question himself and us. It wasn't just her hating on me anymore. It was her making him feel like less of a man because I was doing well. And that hurt worse than anything she could say to my face. On top of that, another issue was brewing, one I didn't see coming. My younger sister, Caroline, who's 28, started leaning on me more than usual. She's a freelance graphic designer, and her work's been spotty lately. She'd call me in tears, saying she couldn't pay her rent or needed help with her car payment. I love Caroline. She's creative, funny, but she's always been a bit scattered, never great with money. I'd been helping her out, sending her a few $100 here and there, because I could afford it. But William started noticing the transfers on our joint account. He didn't say much at first, just asked who I was sending money to. When I told him it was for Caroline, he'd nod, but I could see it bothered him. One night, it came to a head. We were going over our budget, and he pointed out how much I'd sent Caroline that month. almost $2,000. Izzy, we're not a bank, he said, his voice tight. Why can't she figure it out like everyone else? I got defensive, saying she was my sister and I couldn't just let her drown. He snapped back. Maybe if you weren't always playing the hero, we'd have more saved for ourselves. It was the first time he'd ever raised his voice at me. I was stunned. We didn't talk for the rest of the night, and I lay awake wondering if his mom's resentment was rubbing off on him, if he was starting to see me as the problem too. The worst moment came a few months ago at a family barbecue. William's mom had invited half the neighborhood, and I was trying to keep things light, chatting with relatives and flipping burgers. She pulled me aside to help in the kitchen, and that's when she let it all out. She said, "Isabella, I've been meaning to talk to you. I don't think you realize how hard it is for William, always being in your shadow. A man needs to feel like a man, and you're not helping with all your success." She said it like it was a dirty word. I stood there, holding a tray of buns, feeling like I'd been slapped. I mumbled something about loving William and wanting the best for both of us, but she just shook her head and walked away. I didn't tell William what she said, not right away. I was too angry, too humiliated. But it festered. I started pulling back, not sharing as much about my day or my work. I didn't want to give his mom more ammunition. Meanwhile, Caroline kept calling, needing more help, and William kept getting quieter. I felt like I was juggling two fights, one with my mother-in-law's jealousy and one with my husband's growing resentment, and I was losing both. I knew I had to do something before it broke us. I started thinking about what I wanted, not just to stop the fighting, but to feel like myself again. I didn't want to dim my light to make anyone else comfortable, not even William's mom. But I also didn't want to lose my marriage or my sister. So, I came up with a plan, piece by piece, to take control without burning everything down. First, I tackled things with Caroline. I loved helping her, but William was right. It wasn't sustainable. I sat her down over coffee and told her I couldn't keep covering her bills. Instead, I offered to help her set up a budget and connect her with a friend who runs a design agency that was hiring. It wasn't easy. She got upset, said I was abandoning her, but I held firm. I told her I believed in her, but she had to start standing on her own. It took a few weeks, but she landed a contract with the agency, and for the first time in months, she called me excited, not crying. It felt like a weight lifted, and when I told William, he actually smiled and said, "That's great, Izzy. I'm glad you did that." Next, I knew I had to face the bigger beast, his mom. I wasn't going to confront her head-on. That'd just make her dig in harder. Instead, I decided to change the dynamic. I started inviting her over more, asking her to teach me things, like her recipe for lasagna or how she organizes her garden. It was strategic. I wanted her to feel valued, not threatened. At first, she was skeptical, but over time, she softened a bit, telling stories about William as a kid or showing me old photos. I didn't bring up my job, and neither did she. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The hardest part was William. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. One night, after dinner, I asked him to sit with me. No phones, no distractions. I told him everything. How his mom's words made me feel, how I was scared he was pulling away, how I didn't want my success to come between us. I said, "I love you, William, but I can't keep feeling like I have to shrink myself to make everyone else happy." He was quiet for a long time, then admitted he'd been feeling like he wasn't enough, not just for me, but for his mom's expectations too. He said her comments got in his head, made him question if he was failing me. Hearing that broke my heart, but it also gave me hope. We talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in months. We agreed to set boundaries with his mom, no more letting her comments slide, and to check in with each other more, no matter how busy we got. Things aren't perfect now, but they're better. His mom still makes the occasional jab, but I don't let it sink in like before. William's been more open, even started talking about maybe going back to school for a master's degree, not because he feels pressured, but because he wants to. Caroline's doing okay, picking up more clients, and I'm proud of her. As for me, I'm back to loving my job without guilt, and I'm learning to balance being proud of myself with being there for the people I love. Looking back, I think I handled it the best I could, setting boundaries, being honest, finding ways to build bridges instead of walls. But sometimes I wonder if I could have done more, or done it differently. Should I have called out my mother-in-law sooner? Should I have pushed William to open up earlier? I'm still figuring it out, and I'd love to hear what you think. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Was there a better way to handle it? Or did I make the right calls? Let me know. I'm all ears.